Did you know that an average person experiences stress 14.2 days per month due to negative behaviors? Quite a startling fact, isn't it? Welcome to our enlightening journey where we unearth the profound wisdom tucked in Buddha's teachings. Today, we're turning the spotlight on 10 bad behaviors that can turn people ugly. Buddha's teachings, known for their timeless relevance and profound impact, offer us a mirror to reflect upon our own behaviors. They serve as a compass, guiding us away from the pitfalls of negative actions and steering us towards a more fulfilling life. In this exploration, we'll dissect each behavior, provide real-world examples, and discuss Buddhist perspectives on how to navigate these behavioral pitfalls. From anger to ignorance, we'll delve into how these behaviors can distort our lives and how Buddha's teachings can help us transform them. So buckle up for this enlightening ride. Let's delve into the first behavior that can turn people ugly: anger. Anger, a common emotion that can cloud our judgment and lead to regrettable actions. We've all experienced it, that intense, heated feeling when someone cuts us off in traffic or when we're unjustly criticized. It's a fire that consumes reason, leaving only ashes of regret in its wake. The Buddha taught that anger is like picking up a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Anger, in its essence, is a form of suffering. It's a reaction to a perceived threat or injustice, but it often ends up causing more harm to ourselves than to the object of our anger. Consider for a moment how it feels to be angry. The tightened chest, the clenched fists, the racing heart. It's not a pleasant state to be in, is it? Yet we often choose it over understanding or patience. The Buddha's teachings encourage us to look deeply into our anger, to understand its roots. Is it born from a place of fear, of insecurity, of feeling unloved? By understanding our anger, we can begin to transform it. Remember, it's not about suppressing anger, but rather understanding it. We can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. The next time you feel the heat of anger rising, take a deep breath. Let it out slowly and ask yourself, is it worth burning for? But what if the grass isn't greener on the other side? Let's explore envy. Ever caught yourself wishing you had what others have? That's envy. This emotion is more than just harmless admiration. It's a craving that can consume us, leaving us feeling unsatisfied, resentful, and unhappy. It's that uncomfortable pang you feel when a friend shows off their new car, or the bitter taste in your mouth when a colleague gets that promotion you've been eyeing. But what does Buddha have to say about envy? Well, according to his teachings, envy is a form of suffering. It stems from our desire to possess what doesn't belong to us and our inability to appreciate what we already have. Buddha suggests that the antidote to envy is to cultivate mudita, or sympathetic joy. This is the joy we feel for others' successes and happiness. Instead of wishing we had what they have, we should feel happy for them and for the good in their lives. So how can we apply this? It's all about changing our perspective. When envy starts to creep in, remind yourself that everyone's path is different. Celebrate others' achievements and use them as motivation, not as a measure of your own worth. And remember, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. It's green where you water it. From wanting what others have to wanting more for ourselves, let's discuss greed. Greed, it's not just about money or possessions, it's the excessive desire for more. But how do we recognize this unquenchable thirst within ourselves? Think of a time when you had a slice of cake, and instead of savoring it, you immediately craved another. Or consider how you feel when you see someone else's shiny new car or sprawling mansion. That unease, that yearning for more, that is the essence of greed. Greed can manifest in various ways, from hoarding objects to an insatiable quest for power. It's that nagging voice that tells you that you'll finally be happy, satisfied, or successful when you have just a little bit more. But the truth is, that little bit more is never enough. So, what does Buddhism teach us about greed? The Buddha taught that the root of all suffering is desire, and greed is an extreme form of this. To combat greed, Buddhism encourages us to practice contentment and gratitude. Instead of focusing on what we lack, we should appreciate what we have. Instead of constantly seeking more, we should find joy in the simplicity of the present moment. This is not to say that ambition or aspiration is wrong. Rather, it's about realizing that true happiness does not come from external possessions or achievements, but from inner peace and contentment. Moving on from wanting more to doing less, let's talk about laziness. Laziness, our comfort zone where nothing grows. This is a behavior we're all too familiar with. It's the cozy cocoon we wrap ourselves in, avoiding the world outside. The undone tasks pile up, the missed opportunities accumulate, and so does the guilt. Laziness, in essence, is not just the absence of action, but also the absence of will. Now let's look at what Buddha teaches us about this. In Buddhism, laziness is viewed as a form of self-inflicted suffering. It's like a thick fog that clouds our path to enlightenment and personal growth. The Buddha encourages us to break free from this fog, to rise above our comfort zone and embrace the world with open arms. But how can we do this? The answer lies in mindfulness. By being aware of our thoughts and actions, we can identify the roots of our laziness. Is it fear of failure, or is it the comfort of routine? Once we pinpoint the cause, we can work towards overcoming it. Buddha also taught the importance of discipline and perseverance. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So let's take that step, however small, towards productivity and growth. Let's replace the "I'll do it later" with "I'll do it now." After all, a river cuts through a rock not because of its power, but because of its persistence. From being humble in our actions, let's now discuss pride. Pride, a high opinion of one's own importance that can blind us. This powerful emotion can make us feel invincible, yet it can also lead to our downfall. Pride is like a peacock with its feathers fully fanned out, parading its beauty for all to see, but oblivious to the fact that it's also displaying its vulnerability. In our everyday lives, pride can manifest in various ways. It could be the refusal to admit when we're wrong, the tendency to belittle others, or the inability to accept help when we need it. We've all had moments where our pride has gotten the better of us, causing us to act in ways that we later regret. Now let's take a moment to understand the Buddhist perspective on pride. Buddhism teaches us to practice humility, to understand that we are no better or worse than anyone else. It encourages us to acknowledge our strengths without arrogance and to recognize our weaknesses without shame. It invites us to consider that we are all interconnected and that our actions have an impact on others. Through humility, we can cultivate empathy, understanding, and compassion. We can learn to listen more and speak less, to appreciate others and to value their perspectives. As we let go of our pride, we create room for growth and transformation. So, let's challenge ourselves to practice humility in our daily lives, because it's not about being less than anyone else, it's about being kinder and more understanding. From certainty, let's move to uncertainty, doubt. Doubt, a state of uncertainty that can hinder our growth. It's the feeling that creeps in when we're on the verge of making a decision, when we're about to take a leap of faith. It's that nagging thought in the back of our minds asking, what if I'm wrong? Doubt can manifest in various aspects of our lives, in our abilities, in our relationships, in our beliefs. It can lead to hesitation, indecision, and paralysis, preventing us from moving forward, from seizing opportunities that come our way. But let's consider doubt from the perspective of Buddha's teachings. Buddha saw doubt not as a roadblock, but as an opportunity for introspection and growth. He encouraged questioning, investigating, and exploring our doubts rather than shying away from them. He emphasized the importance of seeking truth and gaining wisdom to dispel doubt. Buddha's teachings guide us to face our doubts head-on, to dive deep into them, and to understand their origins. It's about learning to trust ourselves, our intuition, and our capacity for wisdom. You see, doubt isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can be a catalyst for growth, a prompt to seek answers, and a push towards self-improvement. It's about transforming that uncertainty into a quest for knowledge, a journey towards enlightenment. From speaking the truth to pretending, let's discuss hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, pretending to be what we're not. This behavior is like wearing a mask, hiding our real selves and projecting an image that isn't true. We see it everywhere, from the small everyday deceptions to larger, more damaging lies. One may claim to be a health enthusiast while secretly binging on junk food, or present oneself as a supporter of a cause while doing nothing to actively support it. Hypocrisy is a complex behavior, often driven by fear or a desire for acceptance. But what does Buddhism say about hypocrisy? Well, Buddha teaches the importance of sincerity, of being true to oneself and others. According to Buddhism, our actions should align with our words and beliefs. This is the concept of right action, one of the steps in the Noble Eightfold Path. It's about being honest in our dealings with others and ourselves, not just in words, but in thoughts and actions too. Buddha encouraged us to remove the masks we wear, to be authentic. He believed that sincerity leads to inner peace and harmony, thus making us more attractive in a spiritual sense. It frees us from the stress of maintaining a false image and allows us to connect deeply with others. So let's strive to be sincere, to be real, to be us. After all, isn't it exhausting to keep up appearances, to live a life that's not truly ours? From being patient, let's now explore impatience. Impatience, our desire for things to happen right now. This is a common trait, particularly in our fast-paced world where instant gratification is the norm. Impatience can manifest in a variety of ways. Maybe you're drumming your fingers on the table, waiting for a text response. Or perhaps you're stuck in traffic, feeling frustrated and restless, thinking of all the things you could be doing instead of waiting. Impatience, in essence, is an intolerance for things to unfold in their own time. It's the inability to wait calmly when things are not going as fast as you'd like. This can lead to stress, anxiety, and even anger. It can disrupt our peace of mind and make us act impulsively, often leading to regrettable decisions. Now let's delve into Buddha's teachings. Buddha proposed a different approach to time and waiting. He taught about the importance of patience, or kshanti in Sanskrit, which is one of the paramount virtues in Buddhism. Patience is the ability to endure difficult circumstances such as provocation or delay without becoming annoyed or upset. It is the ability to control one's emotions or impulses and proceed calmly when faced with difficulties. So how can we cultivate patience? By practicing mindfulness and staying present in the moment, by understanding that everything has its own time and cannot be rushed, by realizing that impatience does nothing but rob us of our peace and happiness, by accepting that some things are beyond our control. Grudge holding, the heavy baggage we carry from the past. This invisible burden, often seen as a form of emotional self-defense, is a common human behavior. It can stem from a perceived injustice or a perceived betrayal, and it can last for years, even decades. But what does it really do to us? It traps us in the past, prevents us from moving forward, and sours our present moments with bitterness and resentment. Now, let's turn our attention to the wisdom of Buddha on this matter. Buddha taught that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Buddha advises us to let go, to forgive, not for the sake of others, but for our own peace and happiness. Forgiveness, in this context, is not about forgetting or condoning the wrong. It's about freeing ourselves from the grip of lingering resentment. Buddha's teachings suggest that when we hold a grudge, we're not hurting the person who wronged us, but rather we're hurting ourselves. We're letting that person live rent-free in our minds. So why not evict them? Why not reclaim our mental space and fill it with peace and positivity instead? From knowing to not knowing, let's discuss ignorance. Ignorance, the lack of knowledge or awareness, it's a state of being unaware, often leading us to make uninformed decisions, jump to conclusions, or simply miss out on opportunities for growth and development. Ignorance can manifest in many ways, from not understanding the feelings of others to being oblivious to the consequences of our actions. Buddha once said, "Just as a snake sheds its skin, we must shed our past over and over again." This is a call to continuous learning, to never allow ourselves to be confined by what we think we know. In the eyes of Buddha, ignorance is not bliss, but a hindrance to enlightenment. Imagine a life where we continually seek to learn, to understand, to grow. A life where ignorance is replaced with wisdom, where darkness is replaced with light. This, according to Buddha, is the path to true happiness and peace. Buddha's teachings emphasize the importance of wisdom and knowledge. They urge us to question, to investigate, to explore, to be like a lotus flower, rising from the muddy water to bloom in the sunlight, symbolizing our journey from ignorance to enlightenment. This journey begins with recognizing our ignorance. It's about acknowledging that there's always more to learn, more to understand. It's about embracing the unknown rather than fearing it. Having understood these behaviors, let's summarize our discussion. We've embarked on a journey understanding the 10 behaviors that can turn us ugly. From anger to envy, greed to laziness, pride to doubt, hypocrisy to impatience, grudge holding to ignorance, each behavior has its own challenges and solutions. The teachings of Buddha present us with wisdom and strategies to combat these behaviors, helping us to cultivate a more peaceful and harmonious inner life. As we reflect on these teachings, let's remember that acknowledging our flaws is the first step to overcoming them. Buddha's wisdom serves as a guiding light, illuminating the path towards a better understanding of ourselves and others. It's not about suppressing our emotions or feelings, it's about managing them in a way that promotes peace, harmony, and understanding. The journey of self-improvement is a continuous one, requiring consistent effort and mindfulness. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. So let's progress towards a better version of ourselves each day.